You can be what you wanna be. Be what you wanna be. You just be what you wanna be with me.
Good morning. Happy Easter, beautiful mindset warriors. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here with you today. And you might notice something a little different. I'm at somewhere else today. I'm on location. Well, location is my house, what can I say? But look at where I get to live. So like it feels like I'm on location every single day. And yeah, I thought I would bring it live to you today from here because it's a public holiday. And I thought, you know what? It's such an amazing day. I don't want to go into the office today, but I really want to come and hang out with you guys. And so I thought, why can't I do both? So this is me doing both. So yes, I've got my hat on because I cannot deal with sunlight without sunglasses, and I wanted you to be able to see my eyes. So if you can't read this says Legacy Creators. It's a hat I got from one of my coaches, and I feel like I love that as a concept, right? Legacy creator. I think everybody, whether we admit it or understand it, I think we all want to create some kind of a legacy. We all want to be remembered in some kind of way, and maybe it's ego, maybe it's whatever, but the reality is I like to think that the stuff that I'm doing, hey Tilly, hey Kat, how you going, girlfriend? I like to think that the stuff that I'm doing is somehow helping somebody live a better life. So for me, that's hopefully going to be my legacy, is that I improve a situation, I give more than I take. And yeah, I essentially help people learn how to do their happy and learn how to take control of those emotions that maybe are not serving them to live their very best life. And it's very interesting, my little friend here that's just jumped on, and obviously I won't use her name, but what I want to say, it's really interesting because something happened to me in the last few days, and confidence has been a really big theme lately that's been coming into, I guess, my atmosphere, right? It's been coming in the form of my clients. It's been coming in my own life in terms of my confidence levels, even just jumping on here and being on camera, right? And it occurred to me after talking to lots of different people and then reading this book that some people actually think that confidence is a natural skill. And yes, okay, I'm not going to deny that some people are born and they seem to come across naturally confident, like they seem to be quite charismatic, and that seems to be like a natural thing for them. But the reality is that I really wanted to just share something with you. True confidence, okay, I mean true internal mind, body, spirit confidence doesn't come naturally, because confidence comes from trusting in your abilities and backing yourself and knowing that what you are doing, you are on the right track. And it doesn't matter. So, you know, whether we're talking about confidence with public speaking or confidence with being out in a social environment and talking to people, whether you're talking about being a confident driver, a confident singer, the reality is it's a skill set. And so I really just today, I want to chat with you a lot about that, because I've had all these funny little aha moments that have happened in the last few days. Hey Raquel, hey Sarah, thanks for joining me. Happy Easter, guys. And so I really want to just share with you something that I'm learning. And it starts with this, I guess, it's a bit of a story, because I naturally come across to people as a relatively confident person, right? And from a very little girl, people used to always say, oh my gosh, you know, she's so confident, she talks to adults really well. And my daughter is exactly the same. She comes across as the most confident kid. She comes across like she's 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And she really just kind of has this very vibrant and energetic persona, okay? But that's just a mask, okay? It is just a mask. She's not a naturally confident kid, right? That is the mask that she puts on, that basically that's how she's learned. Now that's her natural ability. Her natural ability is to put that mask on, because if she does that, what it does is it protects her from having to do vulnerability, which is real confidence, right? And I did the same thing. So it's very interesting watching my little human grow up, because I get to see the things that I did, and I also get to see the ramifications of that moving forward. And so I want to share with you a little story, right? Last night, I was on Instagram and I stumbled across this person who I went to acting school with when I was like 12, okay? And I'm not going to mention names because, you know, this isn't the relevant part of the story, but this girl was she was my good friend, and there was the four of us, right? And she became very successful, okay? In her own right, back in the day, you know, she was very well known in television and in the music industry. But what was really interesting was that I was watching her on this show, essentially, and she was going into her vulnerabilities about her insecurities and, you know, how she's perceived and all of this stuff. Now, I had the biggest inferiority complex towards this girl when we went to acting school together, right? She was beautiful and she was everything I thought I wanted to be. She was, you know, she was cute and she was petite, and I was really tall and big, and she was little and small and blonde and pretty and just everything. She had the perfect lips in my head, right? This is the story I made up about this person, right? And we were friends, like, so it wasn't like a rivalry, like we were friends. But I had this complex towards her that, you know, this comparison that I went into, and in my head I was like, God, it's just so easy for her. She's so pretty. She's so talented. And my acting teacher would often say to me, Sam, like, seriously, I don't know what it is that's going on with you, but you're incredibly talented. You've got a beautiful voice. It didn't matter. My acting teacher could tell me all of this stuff. And the story I made up about it was, you know, actually, he's just telling me that because he has to. Grant Fakel, his name was. And he used to say to me, you know, you're so talented. Why can't you see that? And I'd be like, you have to tell me that. You're my acting teacher, and blah, 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 blah. And I made up this huge story. And last night, I watched this girl that I used to go to acting school break down and do some vulnerability. And I, in that moment, was like, oh my fucking God. Here I was creating this whole alternate reality about how life was for her. And she still, today, is struggling with that. And I really wanted to share this with you guys because it is so important to understand that anytime you look at somebody else and you tell a story about it, you are projecting your stuff onto them, and it is not. Like, you're making assumptions, you're projecting, and you don't know what's going on inside of their mind, right? And one of the things, hey Belinda, hey Jen, oh, it's so nice to see all you girls, happy Easter. It's so important for you guys to understand that we project these things based on our own insecurities and our own limitations and our own thought processes. But the reality is that everybody is out there giving it the best that they can with the resources they've got. Everybody has their insecurities and their paranoias and their fears. So, confidence. All right. So if I was really impacted by how you were feeling about me, guys, right now, and how I actually was performing and what this was looking like, then I would go into complete meltdown over the fact that everything had broken down. Now, did I have a meltdown? Yeah, of course I did, like walking between there and here going, oh my God, fuck, shit, fuck. And of course it's on live now, so that's even more hilarious, but super appropriate for what I'm kind of talking about, because confidence really does come from letting go of other people's opinions, right? And so I've really had to step into that place where I let go of that stuff, okay? Otherwise I couldn't do this, right? If I really was impacted by whether you think this was good or whether you think it's professional. My helper here bringing me a chair. Thanks, Mum, you're the best. Could you just hold that for me for 2 seconds? I know. I literally, do you know what? I think I'm just going to stand. It's just easier. So yeah, I think if I was really impacted by those things, then I wouldn't be able to do this stuff. And if my mission is to really genuinely go out there and help and support and love and serve, and all I actually care about is whether or not I look good, whether or not everything is perfect, and I'm attached to whether or not you think it's good enough, then I'm not going to actually do it. And so I was sharing a story which I'm going to come back to because it's really important, I believe. And it's a story about a friend of mine that I went to acting school with. And we were in acting school together when we were like 12, 13. And she was this girl who I thought the sun shone out of her. I thought she was talented and she was beautiful and she was just amazing. And I had this massive inferiority complex towards her. Right? And I'm not going to mention her name because it's irrelevant, but she did go on to be quite successful, you know, certainly in the television industry. She was in some movies, she did some singing. And I tapped out at about 15 because I decided that, I wasn't clever enough. I wasn't pretty enough. My nose was too big. I wasn't the right look. I was too tall. I looked too old. Like, you name it. I literally wrote the book of excuses as to why I quit. But the reality is, the reason I quit was that I looked at all these other people and I just thought that they were so much more than me, right? I compared myself to them and decided that based on that comparison, I wasn't enough. And I think we all do this, right? I think that this is where confidence is or lack thereof is steeped in comparison. And the thing is, like, I cannot be Samantha Campbell any more than I can be Grant, right? I cannot be you guys. I could be a poor man's version of you guys, but I can never be you. So sitting back and comparing myself with what you're doing and how you're traveling and, have you got this and have you got that, I'm always going to end up falling short. I'm always going to end up feeling shitty about myself because I can't be you. And I spent most of my childhood doing this. And so it was really interesting because yesterday I was listening to this book by Ant Middleton, and it was all about mastering your mindset. And he's an ex-SAS guy, and he kind of talks a lot about that pack mentality, and he talks a lot about how mastering your mindset is going to be the thing that will get you through. Like, he talks a lot about training your body, which anybody who's successful will say you've got to have a good body. But the reality is, if you train your body and you don't train your mind, forget about it, right? You are not going to do life successfully, or certainly not to the degree that you could if you mastered this, right? And so last night was really interesting for me because I've spent a good 20 years working on training this supercomputer to behave the way that I want it to more often than not, which is that I've been working towards letting go of other people's opinions, speaking my truth, being vulnerable, being open, being authentic, all of those things, and not being attached to whether you're okay with that. Now, sure, like in my perfect world, I would love everybody to love me. I would love everyone to think I'm amazing, and I would love everyone to think I'm awesome. And in fact, I would love you all to think I freaking rock. But the reality is, I'm not going to change what I'm doing, whether you do or don't. And I truly believe that that's where confidence comes from. So last night I was listening to this old friend of mine being interviewed, and she was, like, looking at her today, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you can just tell she's really struggling. She's really struggling with her self-esteem. She's struggling with her self-confidence. And I look at that now and I go, wow, you know what? You were no different than me. But the difference is that because you were so physically like the look that they were looking for back then, right? She had the perfect lips before people were injecting them, right? She had the perfect nose before everybody got their nose. And when I say perfect, it was just all put together. She was beautiful, right? But the thing is that because I now know with the work that I've done, I look at this interview with her last night where she's breaking down, and I have so much admiration for her, A, being vulnerable, B, being on the show that she was on, even doing it. But it made me realize that she has been externally validated her entire life and also externally shut down. So the acting and singing industry is brutal, right? It is brutal. And most people that are involved in the acting industry, they're performers, they're creatives, right? They are doing something nobody has ever done before and putting themselves out there and saying, judge me, world, like, judge me, tell me whether I did good. So like, and it's really quite simple. Did it win at the box office or did it smash at the box office? Are people following me? Are they not following me? Are they commenting? Everybody's got an opinion, right? And so to see her, like, it made me want to reach out and cuddle her and firstly go, wow, who knew we were both struggling with the same thing at the same time, and really just give her the biggest pat on the back for pushing through. But then I also just found myself so desperately wanting to help her to let go of every other fucker on the planet's opinion, because that is what's keeping her and millions of people stuck in this low self-esteem, low self-worth, low confidence. It's because we're worried what everybody else is thinking, okay? And so it was really interesting, you know, because I had these moments where I was listening to this book and then I saw this thing and then all of a sudden she popped across my page and I haven't seen or heard anything from her for, I mean, must be over 20 years. But to see that she was still struggling, I sat back and I was so grateful that I got out of the acting industry when I did, because I don't think I would have made it through. Like, I would have definitely, the path I went down was starting when I was in that industry because I was so insecure. And so I'm grateful because I've spent the time now working on my mind, and it doesn't matter. So I want you guys to just think for a second. Is there an area of your life where you would like to be more confident? Is there somewhere in your life that you would really like, if you were more confident in that particular area of your life, it would be a game changer for you. It would be a, you know, it would be the difference that makes the difference, right? For me, the confidence, I'll tell you, my recent thing has been all around the online dating scene. I tell you what, like that's as a woman who's 47 and has a child going out into the dating world, you want to talk about doing vulnerability and you want to talk about, you know, feeling completely laid bare. It has been a journey. And, you know, over the last 3 years, it's been a journey that I've dipped my toe in, and then I've dipped back and had to kind of recalibrate, and then I've leant in again, and then I've had to come back and recalibrate, because it's freaking brutal. You go on a date and some people will text you straight away. You go on a date and then you never hear from them again. You talk and talk and talk to someone for months and then they disappear. Like, oh my God, if your esteem is wrapped up in the response from that person, you're fucked, right? And so I've really kind of enjoyed watching myself navigate this process, and I've watched myself evolve over this period of time. And I have to say that the confidence that I have now in this situation is a knowingness and a trust that my man is out there, like, right? I believe that. I believe that there is a beautiful man who is going to be matching me and is going to be in alignment, and we're going to have, you know, similar values and beliefs, and I'm going to be attracted to him and we're going to have chemistry. And like, I really do believe in happily ever after. But I don't think I ever really owned that until recently. I spent most of my life doing the, yeah, well, you know, if I don't find someone, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I did the very dismissive, you know, I'm all good by myself. I've got lots of great friends. I don't need a man to complete me. I want a man, but I don't need one. And it's taken me a really long time to actually go, you know what? Like, okay, can I evolutionarily survive without a man? Of course I can, right? But I do need a man, because to have a man is to actually have somebody in my life to share it with. And to share your life with someone, everything you share multiplies. Like, when I come on and I give to you guys and I share to you in this way, my heart, like, it expands, right? And I want that. I want that with a man. I want the happily ever after. I want, like I was saying in the beginning, I want the Edward Cullen, Jacob story, you know, like, I want that man who just worships me and I want to worship him. And I'm okay to say that now, right? And the reason I'm sharing this with you is by speaking these things out loud. Firstly, you send a message to the universe, God, Buddha, Jesus, whatever you believe. Secondly, on top of that, you actually are calling out yourself and going, this actually matters. You're laying yourself and you're being vulnerable, and in that comes the confidence, right? So for me now, like, I can go on a date with someone and know whether they call or whether they don't. It doesn't matter. If they are my person, I will end up with them. If they don't, it doesn't matter. It's okay. I will keep looking, and I trust. I have trust and faith and belief in myself that I am worthy and deserving of that. So if you go back to your confidence, right, don't think just because you see somebody out there that puts on that confident front and persona that they've got it all made. Don't think that, you know, they're like naturally confident, because chances are it's just not the case. If they are really good, and if they do put off a confident, you know, persona, depending on what it is, maybe ask yourself the question, have they spent enough time and energy and effort deciding that this is actually important to them, and so therefore they've worked on it? So if you ever look at some of my stuff from years ago that I filmed compared to how I am now on camera, like, I mean, I look at it and it's cringeworthy. And have I got a long way to go in terms of improving? Sure. like it's constant and never-ending improvement. But when I first did it, it was horrific. You know, it was like I was all over the joint. And if you've only just joined me now, you might think you're still all over the joint. But I just keep showing up. And each time it gets easier. And every time before I press that live button, I got to tell you, I still feel anxious and worried and nervous, and I get that feeling and vibe inside. And even if I've got half a plan of what I'm going to talk about, I still go, oh, you know, and then things like today happen where my internet drops out 3 times and I'm kind of running around and I'm trying to freak it out and I fix it, and, you know, like, but I'm getting better every time, right? And I'm not attached to what you guys think. Although I do love it when you give me love hearts, because my ego goes, yes, she's loving me, he's loving me, they're telling me I'm giving them something that's valuable, right? So I had all my notes. I am actually just going to grab my notes because today, I never normally do, but today I had all these things I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. Okay. Oh, I know. I wanted to talk a little bit about, so just to finish on that note, guys, confidence. If you want to be confident in an area, look at the area that you want to be confident in, find someone you think is confident in that area and ask them, what did they do, right? Model somebody who is doing confidence in the area you want, because I guarantee you it's not happening naturally, right? They will have a routine. They will have a process, just like before I come on. Every single time before I come on, I put music on, I jump around, I sing, I get my energy up, I get my physiology moving. I do those things. If I came on here and I hadn't done that, I could not do this filming. I would feel really weird and strange. That's my process, okay? The other thing is I say to myself, if I can help one person today, it's been a good day, right? So I am caring about helping someone, but I'm never going to know really. So I just set the intention that as long as I help one person, that's a good thing. Okay. Now, listen, I want to talk with you a bit about, to change directions, I want to talk with you a little bit about your why. Okay. Now, I was chatting with a friend of mine yesterday, okay, about why we do anything. Okay. And it occurred to me that my why for doing something, right? So my business, if you talk about my business and why I have a business called HappyUHQ and why I'm really passionate about helping people be free from anxiety and depression and addiction, it's steeped in my own mess of a life that I came through out the other end, rose like a phoenix from the ashes, and I'm here today, right? And so for me, I realized that if I went through all of this stuff and I didn't use it for some good, then it was a waste of time, right? And I think you will find that if you look into anybody who does anything, right, that they love and that they're passionate about, and I'm not talking about someone that does a job, right? There is jobs and there is your mission and your purpose and your reason for waking up, right? You have to understand, thank you, Cassie. I'm glad I'm helping you, beautiful. You have to understand that vision, that fire in your belly, that thing that like you would do, even if you were a gazillionaire, that thing is steeped. That's your purpose on the planet, right? That is your purpose on the planet. And your purpose comes from your life experience, right? Now, there's a lot of arguments about how that comes about, whether we sign a contract before we come down, whether life happens to us or for us, or whether we actually make a decision before we come down, that these are all the experiences we're going to have. But the reality is that the actual experiences themselves are not necessarily the determinant of why, right? It's just that that's what you had to go through to build the emotional muscle to get to the why. So I want you to think about this, right? I want you to think, are you doing so? Firstly, I want you to just, and whether you want to write it here in the comment section or whether you want to just think to yourself, I want you to ask yourself this. Do you think you are currently living your life purpose, right? Do you think you are currently living your life purpose? If you are doing something that fills your cup up, makes your heart sing, you know, you're excited to get out of bed and do more often than not, then I want you to go ahead and chuck yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And if you don't want to, just say yes inside your mind, right? If you are doing just a job, right, which I've always joked stands for just over broke. I got that from somewhere, don't know where, but that's what I think it stands for, just over broke. If you're just doing a job to pay the bills, to get by, then go ahead and type job in there, okay? And now what I want you to do is I want you to think about this. If you could do that thing, right? If you could do something that even if you had all the money in the world, right, and this is with no limitations, no educational limitations, no financial limitations, no lacking in confidence limitations, if you could just be that version of yourself that got to show up and be who you really want to be, what would you do? What would that look like, right? Okay, Rhonda, yep, just job. Yep, cool. Let me see if I can see what anyone else has said. Okay. All right, so we've got people watching. No one's commenting. Come on, guys. Let me know what you think. Job or purpose? So here's the thing about a job versus purpose, right? Your purpose comes from some pain you have experienced, I believe. Now, I talk a lot about beliefs. Beliefs are just stories. These are my stories. If they resonate with you, great. If they don't, let it go. It doesn't matter. It's not important. But if you're searching right now for your why and your purpose and your mission and you don't know what it is, then I would encourage you to have a look at your life and have a look at the pain points in your life. Have a look at things that you have had to go through that you have struggled with. Have you had to struggle with anxiety? Have you had to struggle with depression? Have you watched a loved one go through experiences of pain? Have you, are you really drawn to when you see a post about animals and that are being hurt? Are you really drawn to that? Do you, sit back and look at what is it in your life that you have overcome and how did you overcome it and how did it make you feel? Yeah, Libby, job. Okay, again, right? I'll tell you, if you're just doing a job, that's okay, as long as you can start looking to the side for something that fills your cup up. And Rhonda, we've talked about things. And I know, Libby, as well, I know that you guys all have a purpose on this planet. And I was talking to my friend yesterday and we were discussing, why? Why does she do what she does? And I kind of just gave her an example and she goes, no, that's not why. And then she went on and explained it to me in a way that I had never heard her talk, right? She shared stories with me about her life that I was like, and she's been a good friend for years. I never knew any of this stuff. And I listened and I said, babe, this is your why. This is why you want to do the work that you've just shared with me. It's not about that, right? That's what you do. That's not why you do it, right? And so I realized in that moment, I was like, oh, actually this is, and she's like, oh my God, I never realized that. I thought it was supposed to be some big, we were joking about Simon Sinek, who's got, a book called something or other to do with why, find out your why or whatever. And the reality is that wasn't landing for her. She couldn't figure it out. And so once I said that to her, she was like, oh, and the penny dropped. And I could see that I was like, well, that's why I'm really passionate about what I do, because I struggled and I didn't know what I now know. And now I do know. I'm passionate about helping everybody else know it. I know that we can change our state like that, right? When someone comes to me and says, oh, I know it's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen, like Pantene ad. Well, the reality is it can happen just like that, right? You can make a decision just like that and you can change. So I want you guys to think about it. You're still searching for me. All right, beautiful. You know what, Cass? Keep searching, sister, because you're right there. And what I would say is that I'm always doing a training of some kind, right? I do more trainings and, workshops and deep immersions, and I'm always working with coaches and mentors and teachers, and because I'm always searching too, right? But I am already me. I'm just always wanting to improve on me. And Ed Milet talks about it. He calls it blissful dissatisfaction. So he's blissfully happy with where he is today, but if he's there tomorrow, then he would be dissatisfied. So he calls it blissful dissatisfaction. And I'm always going to be in that state, right? I will never get there. When I get there, I'll be dead. I will always be working from a constant and never-ending improvement standpoint. But when you're thinking about what you want to do for a living or what, how you want to make money, understand that your why is the most important thing, because there is days, right? I haven't felt that great the last couple of days. And for the last couple of days, I've been sitting back watching lots of, television and Netflix and sitting there with my computer. And I've been going into a bit of a panic, okay? Because I'm in the process of wanting to transition where I am now to where I want to go. And those of you that know me well, right, I've been running my clinic at Erinar now for 7 years and I love it. And I always want to help people like that. But there's a part of me that's like, it's not enough anymore, right? A, there's people that can't afford me. B, I can't help enough people. C, the amount of people I want to help, if I do it the way I'm doing it, I burn out. I don't have a holiday. Like, I've literally had a handful of holidays in the last 7 years, and that's not me looking after me either, right? And so I'm in this process of transition, and when we go through that transition, the old you has to die. And it's scary as fuck for that to happen. So in my case, the scary as fuck part is that for me to shut this part down and open this part, it means that, you know, the money doesn't flow because I have to actually have the time working on this to do that. So then I go into, oh my goodness, I've got a family, I've got to support people. And I go into a moment where I have a bit of a meltdown. And I know that you guys in here, I'm sure if you can relate, everyone at some point's had money struggles, right? And it's not like I'm on the poverty line, but the reality is that when all of a sudden you shift and you shut something down, it costs money, and there's a transition. You have to trust in yourself. That's where your why becomes important, because if I was not crystal clear on why I'm doing this, this would be the time when I'm coming up against obstacles or roadblocks and my fear is starting to set in. This would be the time that I would tap out and go, oh, just go back to the old model. Just do this. Just go back to seeing, 20 people a week, one-on-one. Sam, don't do that. And I would go into this freak out, right? And so I know I've kind of rambled a bit about this, and I've got no idea what time it is because I can't actually see on my phone. Can someone tell me the time if you're listening, just so that I know, so I don't go on for hours? But what I want to say is that in terms of figuring out what's important, if you don't know why you're doing something, then the first time there's a roadblock or an obstacle or something's difficult, you're going to tap out, right? And for a long time, that was what I did. I would start something and then I would talk myself out of it. And I would start something else and then I'd talk myself out of it. This has been the first thing. Oh, thanks, Jojo. See, I've run over. But we did break down a few times, so I'm going to keep going. If you have to go, then that's okay. You can come back and watch it. But for me, this Happy AF is me really showing up, right? This is me saying, okay, I have drawn a line in the sand. I am really clear about my vision. I've talked about it. I've spoken it out loud. It sounds crazy even when I say it. I want to help 1 billion people get happy. My dad goes, oh, that's a bit like, I can't even think of the word he used, but it was a word that didn't know and I didn't understand. And so I just said, I don't care. 1 billion sounds like a lot, but if I help 100 people and those 100 people help 100 people, compounding, right? It's relatively easy for us to impact 1 billion people, but I'm not going to do it from my little clinic in Erina. So I'm going to keep doing that stuff. But I want you guys to know that this stuff and showing up and filming and wanting to run half-day workshops for you guys and giving you support, and I want to be able to provide free content, right? Because a lot of you I've known for a long time in here, and you've done a bunch of different things with me, and I want to keep doing those things, but I want to do it on a bigger scale, okay? So I keep coming back to this why. If you are not really clear on that, then when shit goes sideways, you'll drop it, right? So I've taken, and your why doesn't just come like that, by the way, okay? I have been working on this for 20 years and working on being able to encapsulate it in a sentence. I want to help 1 billion people get happy. It's pretty simple. Utilizing the HappyU mental gym model, which is training your mindset, right? And everything I do, every book I read, everything I listen to, every workshop I go to is all culminating in helping me show up and do that for you guys, right? But I'm doing it for me too, right? This is my vision. It's my purpose. It fills my cup up. But this is what I'm doing. Everything leads back to that place. So when my little girl says, Mum, don't you ever just read books for fun? I enjoy the books that I'm reading, but I only read fiction. Is fiction the real ones? I always get this confused. Non-fiction, fiction, whatever. I only read things that are helping me learn stuff. The last book series I read that was not real was the Twilight series. You can see there's a bit of a theme here. The, adoring man adoring me. So I'm calling that in as well. Now, I just want to finish on a little cute story. Something just happened to me the other day. And I'm speaking it out loud because, as I've mentioned before, when you speak stuff out loud, it's like a whisper to the universe. And we all have whispers, right? We hear these whispers inside our soul. And what happens as soon as we hear that whisper is that our inner critic kicks in and says, who do you think you are? You can't do that, or some negative version of that. And this happens to everybody, right? And it's a protective mechanism. It's not an evil person trying to shut you down. It is the person saying, oh my God, don't do anything that sticks you out too high because, listen, people don't really like confident people, and actually people don't really. So you'll go into this big sort of like breakdown over it. But I want you to understand those whispers that you hear, they are for you. And if you can let go of other people's opinions and you can just do you, then stuff starts happening. So if you've been following this show since it started, you may have noticed a few times I've talked about singing. I've talked about it again today with my little friend that I used to do acting and singing with. And for a long time, I didn't think I really could sing, right? I mean, I knew I had a voice and I knew I could hold a tune, but there's a lot of people that can do that. And anyway, I started talking about this 10 weeks ago now. And so here's something that just happened recently. The other night, I ended up over at my friend's house. And my friend has a full recording studio in their yard, right? He's a musician and, you know, like full recording studio. And anyway, he gets his guitar out and he's one of these guys that like you literally can just give him a song and he can play it. He's really good. And so a few drinks in, we start sitting around this dining table, not in his studio, singing songs, right? And like everyone, his wife, who's my very good friend, had passed out on the couch and was asleep. The kids were downstairs sleeping and we were singing and belting these songs out. And I felt amazing, right? I felt like I sounded so good. Maybe it was the few drinks, I don't really know, but whatever. I really, really enjoyed myself, right? And 2 days later, or the next day, he goes, you know what? Like, we should get 20 songs together and we should, you know, like either do a duo or we should get someone else in and we should, you know, we should go and play a gig somewhere, right? And I went in, immediately, my heart went, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And then I went, oh my God, seriously, right? But you know what? I'm going to do it. Not whether it's about going out and performing, but the reason I want to share this with you is that I love singing. Right? Anyone here love singing? If you love singing, give me some love, because like I'm talking singing in the shower, singing in the car, singing when you're driving. It doesn't matter. Just everybody, you know, when you sing, it's a way of expressing yourself. And so I now don't care. I don't care whether people like my voice or not. I don't care. I know that I can actually hold a tune, and I know that if I practice, I can get better. And I also know that he wouldn't have asked me if he thought my voice was shit. But having said that, have a think about it. How many times have you seen people perform? They don't have the greatest voice, but they've got the confidence, right? They're not in tune all of the time. They, you know, they're like they might break out a tune. They might crack a note here and there. I mean, I don't know. Does anyone else notice that? Or is it just me because I'm a hypercritic? But I notice these things, and in my head I went, oh my God, 10 weeks ago I started talking about how I used to want to be a singer and and now I've got someone saying, hey, let's form a duo and let's, you know, like play some music. I'm like, oh my goodness. So listen, right? If you speak it out loud, magic does happen, right? Magic happens. So I will let you guys know, because we're going to record some stuff. I sent a whole bunch of music over to him to get him to learn, and it is going to be so eclectic. I mean, I'm talking, I've gone from like, you know, KT Tunstall through to Baby Animals, Alanis Morissette, back to Jewel, and then a whole bunch of stuff from Nashville. So I'm open to suggestions if you would like something specific on my playlist for me to learn. And then if you're on the Central Coast, you can come and watch. But even if you're not, I will definitely get someone to video it and record it so that everybody can see. But I could not do that if I was still impacted by what other people think. And doing this, has helped me with that. So I want you to ask yourself, as I finish up today, what is that thing you would do if you didn't care what other people thought? Who would you be and how would you show up in the world if you didn't care what other people thought? Because I'm telling you, you're never going to be happy as fuck if you give a fuck about what everybody else is thinking about. And just in case you haven't worked it out yet, everybody else is so fucking worried what you're thinking about them. They don't have any time to think about they're not thinking about you, right? So next time you catch yourself going into overwhelm and panic and freaking out and going, oh my God, they're thinking this shit about me, I want you to say to yourself, you're not that fucking important. Because you're not. Not to them, but you are to you. So the only opinion that matters is you. And I'm not saying it doesn't feel great to hear feedback from other people. It does. I have got a beautiful group of people in my life, both clients and friends and family, who will always tell me which way is up. They will give me positive feedback. They will give me positive criticism. They will give me constructive things that I can do to shift and change. And I am incredibly grateful for it, because these days I am not attached to that. I know that I show up every day and I do the very best I can. And yes, I want you to love it and I want you to get something from it. But if you don't, I've done my best, and that's all anybody can do. So on that note, I'm going to sign out, and thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Easter Monday, and thank you for dealing with the technological challenges. I will cut and edit this and put it all together, and we will chuck it together onto our YouTube channel. But in the meantime, if you have not got a ticket to come along to my Abundance, Prosperity and Clarity Unleashed workshop on the 30th of April, then chuck in here, free ticket, and I will hook you up with the details. And if you've got a friend or a loved one who you think could benefit from these shows each week, get them to join Mindset Warriors, because this is the place where we are learning how to train the best, most amazing, magnificent computer on the planet. So yeah, come along to the workshop, tune in next week, and I love you guys, and I will look forward to seeing you all next Monday.